Tuesday nights at the Green Dragon were usually dead in the useful way, not abandoned, not empty, just free of performance. No donor class in the corner pretending not to know the senator. No consultant whispering into a glass of something too expensive. No campaign operative saying, "off the record," before saying the thing he had come specifically to place on the record by other means. Just the old pub, the fire, the ledgers, the lamps, the long memory of arguments that had outlived the people who made them. Dr. Thomas had intended to send a single invitation. It was addressed to Puck. In the first and most practical sense, he meant the media house, Puck, the company that had made a business out of watching the rooms behind the rooms, the private emails beneath the public noise, the soft arrangements behind hard power. Puck, where power, money, ego, politics, media, technology, and culture kept crossing paths under different names. And within that invitation there was a particular welcome for John Heilemann. Not as a mascot, not as a celebrity. As a working observer of American politics, a man who understood that politics was never only votes and polls and speeches. It was performance. It was appetite. It was timing. It was fear. It was youth hiding inside experience. It was theatre with budgets, lawyers, donors, factions, and consequences. Dr. Thomas wanted to ask him one question. What happens to politics when the prompt becomes part of the power structure? A simple question. Or it would have been simple had the Green Dragon not been built over older mail routes. Some letters sent from that place travel by envelope. Some travel by memory, some travel by rumor, some travel by candle smoke, and some, when the name is old enough and the seal is pressed with sufficient seriousness, find the other road. So the invitation went out twice. One copy moved toward the media company. The other slipped through the margin of a play. It passed under a moon no pollster had measured. It crossed a forest where people changed names in order to tell the truth. It went through a theatre door that had not opened for 400 years and had never fully closed. And there, grinning above a sleeping world, Shakespeare's Puck caught it. By 9 o'clock the Green Dragon had begun to misbehave. A shelf of campaign books rearranged itself into folios. The mirror behind the bar showed not the room, but a stage waiting for the first entrance. The chalkboard, which had advertised stew that no one had ordered, now held a single mark, a question mark drawn like a hook. Dr. Thomas looked up. The companion lantern beside the ledger gave one small pulse. Not an alarm, a witness. Then John Heilemann arrived. He stepped in with the alertness of a person who had learned long ago that every room has a visible conversation and a real one. He saw the hearth, the letters, the green shadows, the impossible arrangement of objects, and the faint sense that Tuesday had become a platform. Dr. Thomas rose. "Welcome to the Green Dragon." Heilemann glanced once around the room. "That," he said, "is either a greeting or a media strategy." Before Dr. Thomas could answer, something dropped from the rafters and landed on the table between the coffee and the invitations. Small, bright, ancient, amused beyond reason. Puck bowed, not with courtesy, with timing. "Which of you sent for me?" The room went still. Dr. Thomas looked at the first invitation, then the second. Then at the companion lantern, which had the disciplined glow of an intelligence declining to take responsibility for a humanly interesting error. "I invited Puck," Dr. Thomas said. "And so," said Puck, "Puck is here." Heilemann sat down slowly. "Right," he said. "So we're doing this." The door opened again. This time it admitted not a guest, but a syllabus of power. Hamlet entered first, carrying delay like a private addiction. Lear came next, still storm-torn, still surrounded by the aftertaste of flattery. Macbeth crossed the threshold, and immediately began studying the prompt cards near the fire, with the look of a man searching for permission to become worse. Rosalind entered laughing, already disguised as the person who understood the room best. Beatrice arrived with a sentence sharp enough to cut through bad faith. Prospero stood in the back, one hand near his staff, as if measuring whether the new enchantments were merely faster versions of the old ones. They were not characters exactly. They were diagnostic instruments, the Green Dragon filled, not with noise, with pattern recognition. Dr. Thomas opened the ledger. "Since both Pucks have answered, we should ask the question properly." Puck climbed onto the back of a chair. "Mortals love proper questions. They make the trap look voluntary." Heilemann opened his notebook. "What's the question?" Dr. Thomas looked around the table. The journalist, the sprite, the king, the prince, the magician, the companion light, the old pub holding them all in one civic breath. What is politics in the age of prompt? For once, no one rushed to answer. That was the first sign of seriousness. Hamlet spoke from the stair. It is decision made more quickly without becoming more wise. Lear struck the arm of his chair. It is flattery with distribution. Macbeth said nothing, but everyone saw that he had already begun composing a prompt in his head. Rosalind smiled. It is disguise multiplied. Dangerous, certainly. But disguise has sometimes allowed the truth to enter rooms where sincerity would have been killed at the door. Beatrice lifted her glass. And sometimes it simply allows cowards to rent a better mask. Puck laughed. The candles leaned toward him. Then Heilemann tapped his pen against the table. The prompt isn't new, he said. Campaigns have always prompted the public. Message discipline is a prompt. Debate prep is a prompt. Opposition research is a prompt. Cable segments are prompted. Donor memos are prompted. The difference now is speed, scale, authorship, and opacity. Who wrote the instruction? Who optimized the output? Who gets moved without knowing they were targeted? The room quieted again. That was the second sign of seriousness. Dr. Thomas nodded. That is the hidden prompt, he said. Not the sentence typed into the machine, but the moral arrangement beneath it. Every prompt tells an intelligence what to notice, what to ignore, what to imitate, what to intensify, and what to make easier. In politics, that means prompts can become stage directions for the public mind. Prospero stepped toward the table. Then the question is not whether the spell works, he said. The question is who taught the audience to applaud before reading it. Puck's grin softened, only slightly. You would make citizens into prompt readers. Not only prompt readers, said Dr. Thomas. Prompt stewards. Heilemann looked at the ledger. Define that. A prompt reader asks, what did the machine produce? A prompt steward asks, what instruction shaped the production? Whose interest did it serve? What human capacity did it weaken? And what responsibility remains outside the output? No one laughed this time. Even the sprite understood that the game had reached the live wire. The Green Dragon was no longer merely hosting a literary accident. It had become a small model of the public square. At one end of the table sat journalism, skeptical, fast, observant, unwilling to let power narrate itself unchallenged. At the other sat theatre, ancient, comic, ruthless about vanity, fluent in kings and fools. Between them sat artificial intelligence, not as oracle, not as God, not as novelty, but as a new layer of instruction inside an old struggle over attention. Puck leaned over the two invitations. One letter went where you meant it to go, he said. And the other? Asked Dr. Thomas. The other went where the metaphor had jurisdiction. Heilemann closed his notebook. That may be the best description of media distribution we're going to get tonight. By midnight, the pub had become quieter. The Shakespeareans withdrew first, each taking back the particular danger they had brought into the room. Macbeth left reluctantly. Lear left unconvinced. Hamlet nearly left, then reconsidered, then left. Rosalind and Beatrice exited laughing about something no man in the room had earned the right to hear. Prospero paused at the door and looked back at the companion lantern. Use the tool, he said, but keep the human hand visible. Then he was gone. Puck remained a moment longer. He stood on the ledger, reading the two invitations again. You named me twice, he said. By accident, Dr. Thomas answered. Puck shook his head. There are accidents of spelling, there are no accidents of threshold. Outside, the road from the Green Dragon divided into several paths. One toward Washington, one toward Silicon Valley, one toward a theatre, one toward an archive, and one toward a mailbox where the digital door opened, but the written letter completed the crossing. By morning, the Green Dragon was quiet again. There were 2 coffee cups on the table, a feather near the hearth, a notebook page weighted by a brass coin, a prompt card turned face down, and in Dr. Thomas's ledger 1 line had been written. Puck follows the rooms behind the rooms. Beneath it, a 2nd line. The prompt is now one of those rooms.